Seattle Seahawks lose 30-16 at home against the Baltimore Ravens. And yes, the return of Earl Thomas III, the prodigal son, the beloved Earl Thomas of Seattle. And yeah, if there were people who were going to boo at this guy, go fuck yourselves. This guy was a fucking treasure for Seattle for so many years, nearly a decade. But today he was the enemy. And as the enemy, I'm going to just preface this right now. Baltimore kicked our ass today. Baltimore kicked our fucking ass today. And I'm going to say it right now, fair credit to them. Lamar Jackson, that defense, all did fantastic. And yeah, I'm saying that right now because once I get into all this fucking shit that I wrote on here, it's just nothing but salt. It's nothing but salt. It's nothing but just like, frustration. Because by the start of this game, you're already thinking Lamar Jackson's going to be a fucking problem. Lamar Jackson is always a problem, right? Linebackers think, oh, he's just going to maybe pass, maybe take a little step to the right and pass. Nope, he's going to fucking burn you for 20 yards running whatever the fuck he wants because he can. He's that athletic. He's that good. And thankfully, in that first drive for Baltimore, they only settled on the field goal. Justin Tucker, automatic. I mean, dude, you give him 25 yards, it's a gimme for him, almost always. And so you have a Seattle team that goes on the field, 3-0. And on offense, it's just, okay, cool. I mean, it's a small little glimpse of what could potentially happen, right? And yeah, Seattle's defense from that point on did pretty decent enough to hold Baltimore on their own. And you have Russell Wilson just kind of in rhythm, getting his shit going. And his weapons, guys like DK Metcalf, Jaron Brown, David Moore, Tyler Lockett, all kind of in sync. Just like last week's touchdown celebration. Bye. But what wasn't really a bye was the first quarter. And what I mean by that is just there's nothing scored. Just the fucking field goal for Baltimore, and we move on into the second quarter, where, yes, only 14 seconds into the start of the second quarter, we're already like 20, 15 yards into Baltimore's own defense. And there you go, Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson. It's a story that never gets old, and I could see all day, because it's always some sort of crazy highlight play that goes on between Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett. So you get that touchdown to make the game 3-7. And you would think, okay, 8 minutes off the clock from that first quarter to the beginning of the second quarter. We're dominating clock. We're doing okay. We're going to just grab the fucking balls and keep it going, right? But here we are again, facing Lamar Jackson, the biggest roadblock in this entire game, Lamar freaking Jackson, causing all kinds of problems. And of course, they get close enough. Seattle's defense does well to hold them off from getting a touchdown, and you settle for a Justin Tucker field goal. So hey, some positives there. There were some fucking positives there in that second quarter. You think, okay, cool, man. Russell's going to get back on the field. It's going to be awesome because he's going to use that beautiful arm and brain of his to just get our guys down there. And of course, what happens in a second quarter of any Seahawks game? Pete challenging for a passer interference that will never go through, because if it rains in Seattle, Pete's going to challenge in the second quarter. That's a give me rule. And so you have no timeouts after that point. And just kind of a typical Seattle move where that happens. It doesn't really go through for a scoring drive, more or less, but you settle for a field goal, right? Justin Myers, 34 yards. Good enough. 6-10. And so a little bit of confidence is back in the air. And so you have Seattle's defense coming back on the field to cause problems for that Baltimore offense, which early on in this first half, it looked like Seattle's defense was causing all sorts of problems. They were doing really well. And then what happens? Seattle gets back on the offense. And the guy who I've been making fun of for weeks, I mean, not even weeks, for days, since the trade from the LA Rams to the Baltimore Ravens, was Marcus Peters. I thought, oh my God, Marcus Peters is going to come to Baltimore, only get his fucking ass kicked by Russell Wilson. He's going to fucking snuff the fuck out of him for however many yards. And the fucking universe bitch slapped me in the face and said, no, Marcus Peters is going to get a fucking interception. The first interception for Russell Wilson to fucking start this campaign in the 2019 season. And Marcus Peters runs that in for a fucking pick six. And that is 5 minutes to go in the second quarter. You understand how demoralizing that is to an offense that feels like it's clicking, and then the confidence just saps itself out right then and there? It was awful. And so now you have Baltimore leading at 13-10. And yes, of course, you have Russell Wilson back on it again. Back on it again to rectify the damage that he's done to the team. And he answers back, 72-yard drive, fantastic. Just, Myers getting the field goal, tying it up, 13-13. And we head up into the second half with a lot of self-inflicted wounds. And maybe the halftime talk would have been, hey guys, maybe don't fucking step on your own goddamn foot. And ask, oh, why does it hurt so much? Because you stepped on your own goddamn foot, motherfucker. That's why. Jesus Christ. And really, what set off the kind of downfall of this game was the start of the second half. It really was. Where you wouldn't think it, but in retrospect, when you look at it, it looks like this was the key point where everything just fell apart. Seattle, because they deferred in the first half, they get the ball back in the second half. And sure enough, we get close enough down the field, and Myers misses from about 48 yards. This gives Baltimore their best field position in the game. And in proportion to that, where we thought they were going to just settle for a Justin Tucker field goal, Baltimore decides to just fucking go for it, and on 4th and 2 on the 8-yard line, yes, they drove in that fucking much because Lamar Jackson just thunder from fucking air and earthquake from the ground. The guy was magnificent today, and he gets a rushing touchdown in the third quarter, with about 1:20 left, and when you're up 20-13 at that point as an away opponent, you could just fucking put a stranglehold on this game against the Seattle Seahawks and you'll win. And you know what? This is absolutely what Baltimore did. Seattle, even if they tried to get to a certain point of getting the ball closer to scoring, penalties cost them early in this fourth quarter. And it was just this kind of, I want to say, inevitable moment where Seattle was going to, again, shoot themselves in the foot. And it was really essentially on defense, where I thought in this fourth quarter especially, Seattle just let the barn doors open. And Lamar Jackson ran all over us. 100-plus yards by the start of that fourth quarter. He was absolutely magnificent. And granted, yeah, his passing wasn't even all that spectacular today. It really wasn't. It was pretty awful. But relatively speaking, he was a killer today. He was. As a game winner, he was. But in the certain scenario, in the fourth quarter, with 3 minutes and 47 seconds left, Baltimore, utilizing the clock to their advantage to the fullest, gets a field goal, and the score is 23-13, where, again, Seattle's defense looked absolutely anemic today compared to Lamar Jackson and that offense. And sure enough, Seattle decides to embarrass themselves a little bit more. When we get the ball back, Russell Wilson throws the ball to DK Metcalf. And DK Metcalf, somehow, some way, from switching off, after catching the ball, switching the fucking hand from his right to left, if I'm not mistaken, And somehow within that sequence of events, which is like not even a fucking second, he fumbles the ball out. The ball stays inbound. Humphrey is barely out of bounds, recovers it from the fumble, and fucking runs it in for a touchdown. And yeah, that shit was a touchdown. Once that happened, I knew the shit was over. It was over. 30-13. 30 to fucking 13. I love DK. I do, but what the fuck was that shit? What the fuck was that shit? At 23-13, we had a slight chance, a smidgen of a chance to possibly get this game to 20-23 and maybe get an onside kick or maybe get some really good defensive stops there and perhaps tie the game and go into overtime. But no! You fumbled the fucking ball! And again, credit to the Baltimore defense. They scored 14 on defense today. At this point in the game. 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. At this point in the game, they scored 14. Seattle scored 13 on offense. And that was your total score, 30-13. And I just thought watching this game and looking at our Seattle Seahawks players, it looked like just a bunch of lost fucking puppies in that second half. Especially that fourth quarter. Shell-shocked, lost-looking puppies, thinking, what the fuck are we doing here? How do we get ourselves out? And yeah, Myers may have gotten a fucking field goal at the end, 30-16, but none of that shit mattered. None of that shit mattered. Because you couldn't figure out Lamar Jackson. You just couldn't figure out Lamar Jackson. And relatively speaking, everything about Seattle today, after that first half, was mediocre as shit. I don't really know how else to put it. I was frustrated watching this fucking game. I was. I thought Russell Wilson doesn't feel the same, and we'll get to that in a bit. And our defense is having a hard time figuring out and stopping this offense, which, let's talk about this. Lamar Jackson, 9 passes on 20 attempts, no touchdowns thrown, no interceptions thrown, and throws for 143 yards, a 69.4 quarterback rating, but he rushes in for 116 yards. Gets a rushing touchdown in there, and was absolutely the reason why the Baltimore Ravens won today. I mean, you have the dual tandem of Ingram and Edwards on the running game too, but Lamar was the hero of this game. He absolutely led this team to a victory. Now, granted, is he the prototypical quarterback that will throw to win games? Probably not. We've seen that today. Very limited in what he can do, but hell, he won the game. That's the important part. Especially within that AFC North where everything is very muddled up and you could essentially win that division with a 9-7 record, at best a 10-6 if necessary. But there you go. Baltimore getting that win is huge. As for Seattle, let's focus on their offense. Russell Wilson, 20 passes on 41 attempts. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 241 yards, a 65.2 quarterback rating. Excessive passing. I didn't like this at all. 41 pass attempts from Russ. You're not going to get the best out of him. We've seen this way too many times. Keep it under 30. Get some good looks. But the running game felt stifled. When you have Chris Carson rush 65 yards on 21 attempts, I just look at that and think, our running game looks so one-dimensional today. It didn't look good. And that because of that, it didn't help out Russell. Not having Penny in there, not relying on some of the other running backs that we got on our squad, that has become a huge detriment to some of our games, and especially in this one, where we absolutely lost it. Because not only did we, turn the ball over twice to give the defense 14 fucking points on the board for Baltimore, but it just looks so lackluster today. I didn't like the effort that our team put out today. And honestly, I hope this kind of frustration and apathy is flushed out in the next few days, because I'm actually going to be headed to Atlanta next week. I'm going to be watching these guys live as an away fan. So I'm fucking hoping Seattle can wake the fuck up and play some fucking football. Because today, you know what I saw today? I saw a lot of guys out there just barely missing, barely getting it done. And that to me speaks to how relaxed you were. How you just kind of barely got through it. I hope you're pissed. I hope you're mad. Because we're going against the Atlanta Falcons next week. The shit-ass Atlanta Falcons. Their defense is so terrible, but their offense is decent enough where our fucking pathetic excuse of a defense at times will probably give up 20, 30 fucking points. So hopefully, boys and girls, hopefully, the fucking Seattle Seahawks can get their shit together. And again, shout out to Earl Thomas, our boy, our guy, coming back home, seeing him. Great to see him again on the field. He did fantastic in some of those parts, and he didn't look that great in some parts of the game. That's the reality of how homecomings happen, majority of them at least. But Seattle takes the L. It's frustrating, but there you go. So hopefully next week in Atlanta I could see a W, and I can record that for you folks. Folks, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Because we'll be there next week. So follow me at the Sky Lounge and all the links in the description. And all the links in the description below. Like, comment, subscribe for more daily content. I told you, motherfuckers, full assault. It's a lot of hate and animosity, but fuck off.